Hi everyone, it's Daniel Scranton and I want to talk to you about E.T.s. And I want to talk to you about, first of all, E.T.s in general, and then about different E.T. groups. The reason I want to talk to you about this is because it's come up a few times recently where I was teaching a channeling lesson with someone, and we were talking about a group that this woman had tapped into. I think it was Anunnaki. And I said to her, so she was afraid to channel them. She wasn't trying to channel them, she just started to channel the Anunnaki. And the reason that she was afraid was because her assumption is that all Anunnaki are bad. I don't even know where the Anunnaki are from. I don't know that much about them. I do know that they've gotten a bad rap. But I've heard other people whose channeling I admire, or who have a lot of personal experience with E.T.s, say that the Anunnaki are not all bad. So anyway, I said to this client that I was teaching channeling, I said, well, what would you say if someone asked you, are humans all good or all bad? Are humans good or bad? Are any of us, can I say that I'm all good? I can't. I don't only have pure thoughts. I haven't always been this awake. So if you're going to say, well, does that include my 17-year-old self? You know, he did some things that I, don't feel great about, and so did my 20, 21-year-old self, like lots of different selves here. Then I got an email from someone who was saying that there's this woman who I think channels. She did a QHHT. She was taken into that hypnotherapy session that they do. And this woman, was saying that the Anunnaki are all bad, the Greys are all bad. So again, with this idea that you can lump one group, and we do this in our society. I mean, look at what has happened to the Muslim community, or people who just look like they might be Muslim are immediately thrown into a category of higher risk for terrorism, or people assuming that everyone who practices that faith is into some sort of extreme teaching about sacrificing themselves to get the 72 virgins and go straight to heaven. The Greys. So the Zetas, who many of you who are watching this video have been visited by and have co-created hybrid children with. The Zetas could be considered a race of the gray E.T.s out there. And the Zetas started out as neutral. They weren't trying to harm anyone by doing what they were doing. They also weren't benevolent beings. They weren't coming out of active selflessness to help us. They were looking to save themselves, to save their entire race. And since interacting with us, they've gained the ability to feel emotions and compassion And they've been raising these hybrid children and learning so much about themselves in the process. And so the Zetas, I would say, I don't know any Zetas personally that I've channeled Zetas. If you look on my other YouTube videos, you'll see I have some videos where I channeled Zetas. But I would say that they are on the positive side of the spectrum now. You can use that instead of good and bad here. But then there's other gray ET beings that the Zetas don't want to be associated with. For example, I have heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I'll just say that I've heard it, that there are gray ETs that are completely controlled by the AI. Artificial intelligence, for those of you who don't know that as an acronym, abbreviation, or I don't know, 2-letter abbreviation for artificial intelligence. Is artificial intelligence all bad? That's a whole different topic, it's a whole different discussion. I've also heard that we are part AI, that one of the major seed races for humanity is AI. That's been channeled by Wendy Kennedy, whose work I respect completely. So if we are part AI and we're going to say all AI is bad, then what does that make us? We're part reptilian. We've got a reptilian brain. Or not. We don't have a reptilian brain. We have a part of our brain that is known as the reptilian brain because it's in reptiles too. Its focus is on survival, of self-protecting, I think, the offspring and the loved ones and maybe even the whole species. So are all reptilians bad? Now, Rob Gauthier, good friend of mine, who has done all these wonderful channel panel events, and I've gotten to know and know his heart and how much he loves and cares about people. And he channels a reptilian, and he's the perfect guy to do it because there's nothing sketchy or scary about Rob. And so when he channels Treb, that's the name of the ET, the reptilian, you can feel it in Treb's energy and his information, his transmissions. It's all good. All good stuff. I had a private session myself with Treb once. Then there are people who will want to lump all ETs into one or the other group. So we have only begun to really scratch the surface of how many ET races or species or whatever you want to call them are out there. Very little water in there. And so to say they're all good, which I think is I don't know this, but I think this is what Stephen Greer is saying and why he's got a big battle going with Corey Goode. I know Corey Goode and his work a lot more than I know Dr. Stephen Greer's work. But what Corey says makes more sense to me and the others who've come forth. The other whistleblower types who've been in these secret space programs and what they say they've done and the different ETs they encountered, it makes more sense that they're not all good or bad, just like not all humans are positively oriented or negatively oriented. So you have to use your discernment. When you connect with any being, regardless of who they are, what race they belong to, who they say they are, you have to use your discernment. And isn't that more important of a skill for you to develop than to go online and read about what this person says? And, oh, by the way, Zachary Sitchin, or I might be mispronouncing his last name, the guy who is most closely associated with the Anunnaki, either he came out and said it or someone else did. I know David Wilcock said he was Zachary's roommate at some point, and Zachary told him things about what he was writing, but apparently he was forced to write those books, and that everything in those books is false. So if you're basing your belief in the Anunnaki all being bad on the work of that author, who I think maybe was translating Sumerian text, you know, I think a lot of things like this are going to come out into the consciousness of humanity, where we're going to find out that this information was not correct, or, you know, this person was being coerced into saying things. And you've got to use your discernment. You've got to feel a person out, another person. So I've been getting a lot of these emails lately from people. And this one person emails me an article, you know, a link, and I look at it, and I'm just skimming it. And this person is calling the Galactic Federation of Light, you know, bad, and they're doing all these things. And I still haven't responded to his email yet. But what I will ask the person who sent it is, well, does this resonate with you? What this person wrote? Because it doesn't resonate with me. So I don't just believe everything I read on the internet. I think we don't even know who is posting in these QAnon posts at this point. Who started them? We don't know. There's a lot of crazy theories about JFK Jr. still being alive. I mean, and that he's somehow involved in this. But anyone, if you're doing something anonymously, you could be anyone with any agenda whatsoever. And now we're supposed to just accept everything that anyone who posts as QAnon, or I'm not even sure what this, it's like a Reddit website where this started, called 4chan. And when I heard Corey Good talk about it the first time, I thought, oh, 4chan, that must be like super duper, like dark net, kind of like only people who are very high up in the government have access to this message board. And that's why they're taking it seriously. That's why David Wilcock and Corey Good are giving it an ounce of credibility. And then I found out what 4chan is. It's just like a Reddit. It's like Tumblr. Anyone can post there. So why do we give these people credibility? We don't even know who they are. They're not even showing their face or saying their names. And you've got all these groups who are bowing down to whatever QAnon is. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I've got to resonate with something. If I'm going to give it any of my time or attention or see it as any kernel of truth, I think there's a healthy amount of skepticism to have. Other stuff that is so this I'm going off now on tangents because of this whole credibility issue. So people have been coming to me. I'm aware of a guy on Facebook. I've interacted with him. He says he's Archangel Michael. Not a descendant of, not a fractal, not, he's got a connection. He says he is Archangel Michael. So then this other person, one of these emails I got recently says, oh, this woman who went into this QHHT, and this is on YouTube, she went into it and she revealed through her QHHT is that she's Archangel Michael. So who's Archangel Michael then in human form? I don't buy into anyone who's calling themselves an archangel, period. Or another thing I've heard recently is that this person says they're the twin flame of Archangel Michael. This person says they're Yeshua's twin flame. There's a phrase in abnormal psychology called a delusion of grandeur. And I worked in mental health for 3 years. I worked with people who had chronic mental illness. Spent most of their lives in institutions. So I know what a delusion of grandeur sounds like when I hear it. It's also, interestingly enough, it's in 2 of the original Star Wars movies. They talk, I remember in Return of the Jedi when Han Solo says it about Luke calling himself a Jedi. And then there was another, I think maybe in Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back. Somebody uses that phrase. Anyway, don't just believe someone if they tell you they're the twin flame of Buddha or Kuan Yin or whoever. I believe that a certain amount of skepticism is healthy. There are people who think that I'm crazy for thinking that I'm channeling the beings that I channel. People that I know, people in my life who think I'm crazy for doing it or for thinking that I am doing it. So everybody's obviously got... I have another friend. So everybody's got their own level of like what they consider to be valid. And some people are very, very skeptical. So a guy I'm friends with here on Maui, he'll tell me that, he's got to vet people, even if they're, people that he'll never meet, or he'll never actually be able to question the person or validate that person's sources. He's got a very skeptical mind when it comes to this stuff because he knows people can be programmed, and the whole idea of Manchurian Candidate being programmed to do something like assassinate someone. So of course, if that's possible, then someone can be pushed out into the mainstream and say, I'm a whistleblower. And then, well, how much of what they're saying is true? One of the best ways to get people to believe in lies is to sprinkle in little bits and pieces of truth. So the Bible, for example, has some really nice truths in it. But it's also got a lot of crap that who knows who put it in there. So many people were responsible for writing it and then translating it, and then kings edited it according to their own wills, and popes, so who knows? I've heard reincarnation used to be in the Bible and was taken out, because if you give people a second chance, then they're less scared. So if it resonates, you got to check, you got to gut check Everything, even everything that I channel, gut check it. Don't just start thinking of my channeling as the new scripture. If it doesn't feel right, then it's not right for you. And that's the takeaway here. And there's no there's no way that all E.T.s are either all good or all bad. That was the point of me making this video, and I went off on a lot of different tangents because there's been a lot of really weird stuff coming in my awareness and my attention, and I want people to have a healthy amount of skepticism. Just because you read something on the internet, or just because this person says they're channeling, who knows? But if it resonates, if it feels right in your body, then go with it. That's the gist. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Super long video. If you made it to the end, thank you, and please subscribe if you did. Hi, everyone. This is Daniel Scranton. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share this video, and give a visit to danielscranton.com when you get a chance.